If you thought some locations in Call of Duty Warzone looked familiar, you may be right, depending on where you've traveled. Fans have spotted some real-life locations that look suspiciously like those in the game. Could this seemingly benign dive pool be similar to the site of a well-known real-life catastrophe? Many Call of Duty Warzone fans were excited to spot this giant stadium on the south end of Verdansk and wondered what could be found inside. Well, the answer to that is unfortunately nothing, or at least nothing we know of since you can't actually go inside of it. YouTuber Voxel Era took us on a tour of the outside of the stadium, but the doors are locked up tight and no amount of wishing, hoping, or gameplay will get them to open up barring a glitch. But we're not here to talk about the mystery of what's inside the Warzone Stadium. We're here to talk about what real-life location it looks like. Because there's an actual place that looks an awful lot like this fictional one, but frankly it's somewhere you wouldn't want to go inside. The in-game stadium is located in the fictional city of Verdansk, but even though it's made up, it borrows a lot from the real city of Pripyat in Ukraine. If you're wondering what the inhabitants of Pripyat think about Call of Duty, the answer is probably not much, since they're animals, and not having opposable thumbs makes it a lot harder to play video games. The city of Pripyat had the misfortune of being located near the fourth reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Its meltdown was considered to be the worst nuclear disaster in history. So you can probably guess how busy and bustling the new ghost city of Pripyat is. The stadium from Warzone looks suspiciously similar to another stadium in the Ukraine, located in the city of Donetsk called the Donbass Arena. It cost $400 million to build and was created to contain 52,518 spectators. A major difference is that the Donbass Arena has an open roof, which anyone who's ever tried to get into the Warzone Stadium is probably really jealous of. But don't be, because you wouldn't be allowed to enter the Donbass Arena either. Due to the war in Donbass, it's been closed to the public since May 2014. But if you're eager to get inside, you could switch up your gaming and play a little bit of FIFA. As the world of simulated football shows us, the stadium is still a part of the game. It was included in FIFA 14 when it was still in use, and despite its real-world counterpart being under lock and key, the game version is still going strong. Before you go ahead and fire up FIFA, let's keep taking a look around the fictional city of Verdansk. It may be made up, but that doesn't mean it doesn't need an airport. As we see in this video from YouTuber YoungSV. If you thought the stadium looked similar to its real-life counterpart, this comparison really takes things to the next level. Again, we found a connection between Call of Duty Warzone and the city of Donetsk. It looks an awful lot like the Donetsk International Airport, which was another unfortunate victim of the war in Donbass. The airport was first constructed in the 1940s and 50s before being rebuilt in 1973 and again between 2011 and 2012. Which means it was finished just in time for the war when it was promptly destroyed. It's not exactly a heartwarming story, but it's what we have to work with. When the Donetsk International Airport was shiny and new, it looked a lot more like the one from Call of Duty Warzone. But since the one in Verdansk isn't doing so hot, it'll probably end up looking a lot more like the real-life ruins at some point. And it is kind of fitting that so many locations from Warzone were inspired by an actual war zone. The big wide map of Call of Duty Warzone can be overwhelming at first, but the Gora Dam is one of the most obvious locations, which is handy when you're just dropping in like YouTuber Diego Brights. It's a big beacon on the Warzone map, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it looks like one of the largest dams in all of Europe. If you were disappointed to learn that you can't go inside the Donetsk International Airport at Donbass Arena, you might be glad to know that this location is actually open to the public. Of course, dams are strictly less fun than stadiums or even airports, but hey, they're functional. The Dnieper Hydroelectric Station is very much still in use, and is the largest hydroelectric power station in the Dnieper River. You can find it in Zaporizhia, Ukraine, and it has a feature Warzone fans will surely recognize. There's a highway running across the Dnieper Hydroelectric Station just like there is on the Gora Dam. There are a lot more people utilizing this road in real life, but the downside is that there's not a lot of quality loot tucked away there like there is in Warzone. Plundering goods from an actual hydroelectric station is definitely a bad idea, and one your friends here at CBR definitely don't support. But if you're looking to plunder in Warzone, heading to the Verdansk Bank isn't a bad idea, as YouTuber Arbuckle pointed out. Dealing with an alarm while you plunder one isn't ideal, but it's a quick way to get giant piles of cash. But if you stop to admire the scenery while at the Verdansk Bank, you might have noticed that it looks an awful lot like an actual financial institution. All those giant windows are like a beacon to plunderers in Warzone, but they're a nice addition to the much safer and more secure Donetsk Bank, which, as you probably guessed, is located in Donetsk in Ukraine. Now let's take a look at this extremely central Call of Duty Warzone location, the Parliament. YouTuber Mikey Gaming was kind enough to give us a tour while completing a mission. It's a solid space to get a good look around, and of course pick off any enemies who might be unfortunate enough to pass on by. As you've probably guessed by now, the Verdansk Parliament is based on an actual building in Ukraine. Specifically the Verkhovna Rada building located in the center of Kiev in Constitution Square. It's one of the locations that's still in active use, and the Ukrainian Parliament or Verkhovna Rada meets. Between 1936 and 1939, the building was constructed, rising up 3 floors with a 100-ton glass dome located over the main session hall. This provides the building with tons of great natural light in practice, and it makes the Verdansk government building just look really cool. So few gamers take the time to appreciate the beauty of natural lighting. It's really a shame. Obviously, this building is a big deal to members of parliament, but tourists enjoy it too, since the dome is lit up with a variety of colors after the sun sets. But don't be fooled, because like most other locations in Warzone, this one was once impacted by war. During the Second World War, the building was demolished, and then it was rebuilt from 1945 to 1947 using the same design. But this time it was constructed with the dome 1 whole meter taller than the original. It may not sound like a big difference, but now we can say that the Verkhovna Rada building is now bigger and better than ever. It's great that the real-life Verdansk Parliament was able to be restored to its former glory, plus an extra meter to make it all worth it. But unfortunately, the same can't be said for the Metro Hypermarket in Donetsk. This is one of the rare occasions when Call of Duty Warzone actually makes a building look way nicer and more put together than it is in real life. YouTuber ScamWater took us on a ground tour of the Atlas supermarket from Warzone, which isn't actually in bad shape. They probably even have plenty of toilet paper and wipes in stock, unlike the stores we're dealing with. Despite having to worry about enemies, the Atlas supermarket is somehow more cheerful than the building upon which it's based. Mostly because it still exists, at least in the context of a video game. Earlier, I talked about how war resulted in the destruction of the Donetsk International Airport, and that particular conflict wasn't confined to the airport alone. It spilled over to this Metro cash and carry hypermarket in Donetsk. What's a hypermarket? It's a combination of a supermarket and a department store. So if you've ever been inside a Walmart supercenter, that's pretty much what we're talking about here. Things were getting to be a little bit hectic, what with the airport being destroyed, when the Donetsk People's Republic decided to do some late-night shopping. This group sought to secede from Ukraine and stocked up on food and supplies by looting the store. Later on, pretty much the entire store was looted, including most of the building. All that was left behind was the hypermarket's basic structure, which looks much less inviting than the store from Warzone, which at least has these fancy things called walls. This might be the deepest dive into Call of Duty Warzone we've seen so far, which is why it's pretty fitting that it takes place in a swimming pool. YouTuber Loopy Loop-de-Loop proved that you don't need to actually fill a pool with water in order to have fun. But I know what you're thinking. It's a simple swimming pool, not a giant building you can jump out of a plane and land on. Why would the brilliant minds behind Warzone bother to emulate a specific diving pool? And if they did, wouldn't that be kind of hard since pools tend to not look that different from one another? Of course, I'm not talking about cool custom pools, but the standard kind of dive pool we see here. Well, a very dedicated, observant, and well-traveled Redditor happened to find this in-game location on a very special trip. According to U-Luke Giant, they took a visit to Chernobyl and took note of the dive pool. Then when playing a little bit of post-trip Call of Duty, they noticed the two pools look almost identical, down to the placement of the stairs and windows in the building. This particular pool is actually the Azur swimming pool, which you can find in the abandoned city of Pripyat. You might think that its modern-day appearance is due to the disaster at Chernobyl, but it's not quite that simple. This swimming pool was first built in the 1970s and was in use up until 1998, which is 12 years after the Chernobyl disasters, although the clientele did definitely change. Instead of the citizens of Pripyat, the pool was mainly used by the people hired to help deal with the Chernobyl disaster after it took place. Sometimes you just need to wash off the feeling of a massive nuclear disaster with a nice swim. Even though this area was used relatively recently, it's since been abandoned and now looks just like the pool you see in Call of Duty Warzone. What do you think about the resemblance between these real-life places and what we've seen on Call of Duty Warzone? Did you spot any familiar locations in the game we might have missed? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and don't forget to click subscribe for more videos from us here at CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.